Welcome, Power Learners! Today, we're going to be doing an experiment called Make an Egg Float. Before we jump in, be sure to subscribe to our channel, Power Learn. So now, let's get started. All you need for this experiment is a jar with water, another cup with water, salt, a spoon, and an egg. The first step is to lower the egg into one of the glass cups. Then slowly remove it from that cup. Then pour salt into the glass cup that you put the egg in. Then stir that mixture with a spoon so that the salt dissolves into the water. Don't move on until all the salt has dissolved into the water. Once it has, place the egg into the mixture and test to see if the egg floats. If it does not, then pour more salt into the glass cup. Stir it again so that all the salt has dissolved into the water. And then, after all the salt has dissolved into the water, test the mixture with the egg. After a couple of trials, the egg should float in the mixture. Once it floats, take your other cup with water and pour water into the glass cup with the egg until the water level has reached the surface of the cup. The egg should float in the middle of the cup. Now we're going to talk about how all of this happens. So now let's start talking about how this experiment works. So the main concept that we're exploring in this experiment is density. In this diagram, you can see on the left is the egg when it sunk because the water was just plain water, no salt. And on the right was when it floated when there was salt. So this is a basic diagram, very simplified. This is not the exact density or not the size of the molecules. It's very simplified and just to demonstrate the differences in density. So as you can see in the egg, on the left, it's denser than the water because in the square, it's a perfect square and the same size for all the boxes that I put in this diagram. In the plain water, there's only 2 molecules in the box, and in the egg, there's 3 molecules. This indicates that the egg is denser than the water it is in. And as we've talked about in the past, if an object is denser than the liquid it's going to be placed in, it'll sink. If it's less dense, then it'll float. So on the diagram on the left, the egg sinks because it is denser than the water. And on the right, you can see that the egg has 3 molecules in the box, and in the box in the water and salt mixture, there is 4 molecules. So the egg is less dense than the water and salt mixture is, so it'll float. So that explains how this works. But how does the egg float in the middle of the glass when we add water to it? Now, let's talk about that. So now in this diagram, we see the egg when it is floating in the middle of the glass. You can see that the liquid on the bottom half of the glass is much denser than the top half, and the egg's density is in the middle of those 2 levels. The bottom of the liquid represents the water and salt mixture that we made before we poured the water in. And because we didn't mix it or anything, the water that we poured in stayed separately and undisturbed, and so it was less dense than our mixture. So the egg that was already in it is obviously going to stay in the middle because it is less dense than the water and salt mixture, but it is more dense than the water that was placed above it. So it's not going to float to the top because above it the water is less dense, but it's also not going to sink because below it the water and salt mixture is more dense. And to prove it, I put similar boxes. They're all the same size in this diagram. In the just water mixture, we see 3 molecules in the box. In the egg, we see 4 molecules in the box. And in the water and salt mixture, we see about 7-ish molecules in the box. Again, this is not a ratio representation. It's just to show what's more dense and what's less dense. And also in the water and salt mixture, obviously the water and salt molecules are not going to be the same size. Again, it's oversimplified, but the overall thing that I'm trying to convey is the difference in densities, and that's what is represented in this diagram. So that concludes today's experiment. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel PowerLearn, and see you next time.